Hey guys, it is Wednesday, the 6th of May. It's about 3 o'clock, 2:30 in the afternoon. I'm back here in the woods behind my bee yard and in the mobile office. We'll do week 6 or 7 of this book we've been going through, Your Days Are Numbered. A closer look at how we spend our time. So far, we've looked at, I know I keep repeating this every week, our time in general, the foundation of that time, hobbies, trivial pursuits, temporal versus eternal. Last week, busyness, not having time for God, being too busy. And then this is the last section of this chapter about what our days are made of, and it's titled simply The Mundane. So I'm going to jump right into it and try not to be too preachy as usual. Mosquitoes are terrible back here, so if I get distracted, that's why. Slapping mosquitoes. I'm joined by the faithful Toby. Say hey, Toby. All right, chapter 6, The Mundane. I know we've all coveted before. More specifically, at least for me, I've looked at the lives of celebrities and thought, man, it sure would be nice to be them. We can easily look at them and think that they have a life that's filled with comfort. A life that has so many luxuries. Luxuries which seem to enable them somehow to avoid the curse of the fall. However, I realize that owning 3 houses and eating a very fancy restaurant gets stale after a while. Or so they say. For example, I think it would be surprised to witness a movie star, let's say, for a day. I'm sure it's exciting, and we'd be shocked to see all that they have access to, but I'm sure we'd be shocked to see how ordinary their life might be. Of course, his life or their life may also be so luxurious that they may long for an ordinary day. I don't know. The point is, whether you're Queen of England or an employee at Dairy Queen, all of our days are made up of quite ordinary moments. We get up, we tie our shoes, we brush our teeth, we go to work or school, we go home, we spend time with the family, we go to bed. That's just the norm. Of course, we have those extraordinary moments of tragedy and excitement, but that's what makes them extraordinary or extraordinary. As Paul David Tripp reflects on the incredible opportunities that we have to parent our children. Listen to what he says from one of his books. He says, none of us lives constantly in the grand moments of significant decision. There are many of them in life, or there aren't many of them in life. No, we live in a world of incredibly mundane. And if this is where we spend the most significant chunks of life, we better not waste them. If we're living for these grand moments, as Tripp calls them, then we will miss out on our lives. When we think of the Apostle Paul exhorting to keep a close watch on yourself and on the teaching, 1 Timothy 4:16, we realize the close connection between the theology that we profess to believe and the theology that we live out. Paul is telling us that we are all theologians and that we may believe certain things to be true, but the way in which we live life may either affirm or contradict those things that we claim to believe. And these affirmations or contradictions are lived out in the mundane and the ordinary events of life. Days which seem to simply blend into each other are actually amazing ways to profess the theology that we cling to. Our days are made up of numerous mundane moments, which end up establishing patterns of great significance. God uses these mundane occurrences to conform us more into the image of His Son. A traffic jam, being left on hold, a paper jam in the copier, a difficult person in the office or at school, are all used by God to make us more like Jesus. Ordinary, insignificant moments which make us more like the second person of the Trinity. That's anything but ordinary. Every human being is made in God's image and is vastly significant because of that. However, sometimes human beings can long to establish their significance. And they do so by trying to do something important. Men typically want to be admired by their colleagues, whether that's in the office, on the athletic field, or in education. They want to be recognized. Women, too, want to show the world that they're significant, whether that's excelling over men in the workplace, being creative in the home, and displaying said creativity on Pinterest and Instagram and things like that, or attempting to be a Mother of the Year. People are striving to do or to be something important. That's why we typically make war with the mundane. We want big, significant events to occur in our life. This is the appeal of things like Facebook. Facebook makes war with the mundane. Instead of just tying your shoes, you can tell 5,000 friends you just tied your shoes. You may lose some of these friends because you told them you tied your shoes, but nonetheless, we want to be important, even in tying our shoes. That's the example. Facebook takes the ordinary and makes it extraordinary by allowing everyone to see it and to like it or comment on how others are tying their shoes at the same moment. It enables the mundane events of life to be lived out before an audience each day. This is true, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, any of those things. Why do we post so many pictures and selfies and junk? Because we want to be important. We want to think we're important. We want to be loved and liked. The reality is someone else already lived a significant life for us. We don't have to, and his name is, right, Jesus. He purchased your life, so he doesn't want you to waste it. But you don't have to fight to make your life significant. He thought your life was significant enough to leave his throne and to redeem you because of the promise of his Father made to Adam and Eve. Think back to God's promises in the garden, which is known as the proto-evangelium, the first pronouncement of the gospel. That's in Genesis 3:15. God promises to crush the head of Satan to save his children, and he did that through his Son. His Son was cursed so that God's rebellious children would be saved from the curse. Galatians 3:13. Functioning under this knowledge of newfound significance, we strive after holiness in everyday moments. Realizing that our days are numbered, we don't want to miss out on these opportunities. God uses the mundane to advance his kingdom. Instead of being annoyed by the office gossip, you love them. Instead of snapping at your child when they ask for a candy bar in the grocery line, sit down with them and graciously explain why they can't. Instead of silently living in frustration with your roommate, with a sibling, whatever. You strive to deepen your relationships by talking about issues that are bothering you. Numbering our days helps us to see the significance of these moments. Both the office gossip, the persistent child, and the challenging roommate have eternal souls. One day they, as well as the rest of us, will live forever, either with the Lord or apart from him. And this knowledge can give us grace to see the mundane moments as very significant. How many times have we heard tragic stories of familial relationships ending in fights? An angry father slams the front door in a rage as he speeds out of the driveway, only to die in a car wreck. Or a rebellious teenager is tired of fighting with parents, so she ends her life later that week. You see, the ordinary day-to-day frustrations of life can drive people to do extraordinarily tragic things. Numbering our days assists us to see that every conversation, every moment of laughter, every moment of frustration is a gracious gift from God. It may grate on one's nerves that the teenager sloppily eats at the table at dinner time by smacking or chewing with their mouth open, but one day that teenager is going to be out of the house for good. You may be intensely annoyed at your fellow coworker or your fellow student, but God placed them in your life for a reason. Maybe you're the one that the Lord will use to bring them to salvation. Maybe you're the only friend that person will ever have. Maybe, like I've told you before, you're the only Jesus that they'll ever see. Maybe the Lord's given you a small taste of what it meant for him to reach out to you. Let me repeat that. The little mundane things in life, maybe dealing with people, instead of living your life for what it was redeemed for, maybe the Lord giving you a small taste of what it meant for him to reach out to you. Well, we may never make it in the world's eyes. Every second of our day is highly significant. The last breath you just drew was a gracious gift from our sovereign God. Any moment of difficulty is a blessing to experience. The fact that you have eyes to read the sentences in this book, a mind to comprehend it, and fingers to turn the pages are all testimony to a loving God who gives us thousands of mundane blessings every single day. It's probably a good idea to stop and to give him thanks for those little mundane things right now. Amen? And let's do that. Father, again, we thank you for a beautiful day today, for rest and relaxation, for things that are getting accomplished and getting done. Whatever you're using us for the time you've given us through this COVID-19 thing, we thank you for it. I pray, Father, that especially 6 or 7 weeks now into this, from the youngest to the oldest of us, we're realizing just how all the little mundane things in a day, because we've grown bored, we've grown complacent, whatever. Lord, open our eyes to see that the little trivial, the little mundane things are just things that you're doing, little left and right turns to conform us more to your image. I pray, Lord, that we count the days, that we count the not only the hours of the day, but the minutes and the seconds, so we don't waste a bit of it. Lord, give us rest when we need it. Give us opportunities to work when we need it. And give us opportunities to be Christ when it's needed, especially in the mundane. So Lord, thank you for your love, for your grace, for your mercy, for your providence. Continue to lead and guide us. And when it's your appropriate time, and only in your time, you bring us back together as a family, as a body, as a church, so that we can worship you together. And all God's people said, amen.